Hi, and welcome to another episode of Glenn's Tech Corner. In this video, I'll show you 5 settings you should implement right now to make your ChatGPT many times better. Even though there is a race and all the AI models are competing, ChatGPT still remains to be my favorite for a lot of these small writing, translating tasks that I do every single day. And here is a few settings you can do to make your ChatGPT much better. The first one is to change which model it's using. So when you open your ChatGPT, it would probably say Auto down here, where you can choose between Auto, Instant, and Thinking, or legacy models, but I wouldn't recommend those. I would change it to always use the thinking, which means that it spends a little bit more time, some seconds, to make sure it has enough information. If you have it on auto, it will detect itself and you would kind of need to either ask a question that very definitely needs thinking or ask it to think before answering. But I think that I get in average much better answers if I simply have this thinking model turned on all the time. The next thing I would recommend you is in settings. If you go to settings and into personalization, you will have the first part I would recommend you to update up here. First is the base style and tone. And even though this doesn't really change how ChatGPT works, it does change which language it uses, which might also change how you perceive the answers. I like this calling candid, direct, and encouraging. And others I would choose could be professional or efficient. I feel those get me the most straight to the point answers and not a lot of wraps around everything. The next is these characteristics. The characteristics is how it will answer. And I like to keep it less warm, less enthusiastic. I feel that helps me getting less hallucinations and getting a ChatGPT that doesn't just always encourage me to do whatever I suggested, but actually stay a little bit more critical. The rest I leave default. It might be that you need some other settings if you use ChatGPT for something else. The third setting is custom instructions. This I feel is very important. And this not because I have the perfect prompt. I've been trying some different ones, but I feel this gives a very good base start. And I'll share this in the comment below so you can copy it, use it, modify it if you feel like it. But I'm kind of trying to instruct it to a few things that it should have in mind every time. The first one is that I wanted to do proper research and to use reliable sources. And that I wanted to ask follow-up questions if my task is not clear enough. So it doesn't just start guessing. Because ChatGPT was built to be pleasing, like to give people the answers they wanted, not necessarily always to give them the one that's right, or to question their question. So these I like to make sure that ChatGPT use reliable sources and ask me for more information if I didn't give a proper question. Then I'm asking it to help me becoming better. If I at some point present it in a way that's not optimal for ChatGPT to answer, it should let me know. And then sometimes it would say, next time it would be better if you provide me with data in a specific format, or if you list in bullets what's important for you, or something else. So I also get better in how I prompt. And last but not least is that I am from the European countries, and here we don't use the M dash. It's a very American thing. ChatGPT likes to use the M dash, this very long hyphen. And that is kind of a detect very quickly whether a text is AI. So for my writing and for my target countries, I tell it never to use the M dash. And I wouldn't even use it if I worked in the US because I don't think a lot of US writers are using it, even though it is grammatically correct. So I would always tell it to never use M dash. So that was the third setting. The fourth is to tell it something about you. This could be your nickname, that's more for fun. It could be your occupation, which could be important, and more information about who you are. This will teach ChatGPT in how to write to you, which level you are in certain areas. So this is of course something you should make for you. Tell it where you are strong, where you need help. So I feel this whole personalization, the second step was the characteristics. The third was the custom instructions, and the fourth was the about you. So it's kind of 3 steps in here because I think all of these are very important and they contribute to different things. The fifth and last thing is to use custom GPTs. I have made a lot of those myself. I also made a video about how you can make them if you want to watch that. But custom GPTs is where you can write something that will be the initial prompt that it will read before you start prompting something else. So if you find yourself typing in the same instructions all the time, you can turn it into a custom GPT. And I can show mine here. I have a lot from my Glenn's Tech Corner. As an example, I often translate text bits for my website into target languages. And instead of me having to write every time, can you translate this into these languages? Remember not to change the software name. Remember to make it fit the local cultures. I've built that into a ChatGPT. So if I just write, here is a video about ChatGPT standard settings and hit enter, it already knows what it should do. It does a little bit of thinking because that's my model, and then it provides me with the translation inside a code box for all the target languages that I asked it for. And I have a lot of these different ones that helps me with different scenarios, and which one you need is of course up to what work you do every day. But if you find yourself often having the same type of chat, you can actually just in the end of one of these chats say, I want to turn this into a custom GPT. Can you please help me write the instruction text that I should put in when creating the custom GPT that will allow it to do everything I've asked you to do in this specific chat. And then you can see how it works, and you can of course update it with more instructions if you want to make it even more precise. So I feel these 5 settings make ChatGPT tens if not 100 times better in not hallucinating, working more efficiently, knowing me better, and helping me to prompt better. All of this with these 5 standard settings. I hope this video can help you be more efficient when you work with ChatGPT. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.